All right, hi everybody. My name is Ethan Levy, and I'm doing a version of a talk I gave at the Indie Soapbox session at GDC. Did anybody see that? Oh, nice. So I don't know. I'm sorry for you guys. I didn't add any content. All I did was like take some jokes out because the joke about Rami Ismail only works if he's in the audience. But I've been making games for 11 years. These are some of the 40 plus games I've worked on. Mostly as a free-to-play consultant. I balance my time about 20 hours a week in the game developer, 20 hours a week consulting. I'm going to tell a quick story about a game I'm working on called Someday You Will Die, and just kind of hitting a big lull in that and ways I overcame it. So my talk is called the Indie Shame Spiral, and it's a proven method to never ever ship a game. So what is the Indie Shame Spiral? Here I am. I'm sure this will sound really familiar to everybody in the audience. You're at the start of the project, and you have some brilliant idea. I'm going to make an existential game about death. It'll be awesome. And you're really excited, and you're super motivated. And for 2 weeks or a couple months, things are really moving forward. You're making a lot of progress. You're showing your friends your game. And then, before long, things start to slow down. And for me, what it looks like is I wake up and on Monday I make a list, all the things I want to do that week. And I get to the end of the week and I notice not only have I not done all the things I thought I was going to do on Monday, but I've also done the least important things in general and avoided the most important tasks on my game. And then, I think this will sound pretty familiar, is that your behavior starts to change because your lack of progress is really demotivating. And so you just kind of despair at how much you're not moving forward with your game. And as a result of your despair, you make even less progress on your game, making you further depressed and demotivated. And this cycle never ends until you finally put in a job application to Zynga. Your behavior starts to change. I know that I have a lot of trouble getting out of bed in the morning when I'm not making progress. Maybe you start taking longer lunches. And maybe, coding isn't necessarily your highest priority every morning. And before long, all the time you're not working on your key game, you have this brilliant other idea that you start getting really excited about. And so you abandon your indie game that you were so certain about only 6 months ago. You put it into the Dropbox folder labeled to be completed later, and you start working on something new. And that's kind of what the Indie Shame Spiral looks like for me, and from the chuckles, I'm sure some of these events have happened to you as well. So when I found myself falling into this hole on Someday You Will Die, luckily I had worked as a producer before at EA, and Dan can tell you whether or not I was any good. But at the very least, I had some ideas around what to do when a team gets demotivated, and I thought I'd try and apply those tactics to myself. So the biggest thing is that I run personal scrums. I like Pivotal Tracker a lot, and I actually break my work into 3 categories, which is work on the game, personal chores, and consulting work. I once tried to do 2 games in consulting and personal, and it just fell apart. But the biggest difference between doing Scrum as an individual and doing Scrum on a team was that I had to put things like go for a run and get your allergy shot and actually give myself points for that, because if I didn't, I realized I wasn't taking care of my life as an indie developer, only my game. Very important, I do a 1-week sprint and I track my points, and after about 4 or 5 weeks, it got pretty accurate in terms of point tracking. And I started to do postmortems, and this was very cathartic and very important, and I feel like the process of doing individual Scrum wouldn't work without it. But basically, it's very cathartic to self-flagellate and call yourself out on what you did wrong and like why you didn't get your work done at the end of every week. And then also to make sure that over time you're reviewing things over and over to make sure that, like the realization that I was not able to do 2 projects plus consulting and still get my allergy shots was only because I was doing postmortems and pretty much realizing I was only ever to work on 1 game project a week. And so I was just making the schedule of both games longer. The other thing that works really well for me is commitment devices. One commitment device for me was the Good Game Club. A commitment device is just saying, somehow committing, I am going to do X. and publicly helps a lot too. And Good Game Club, I spent $200 or $300, I can't remember, to buy a table to show my game when I didn't have a playable build. And some of the people in the audience were actually showing their game there as well, and they can tell you that I was fixing bugs up until the moment that people came in. But if it hadn't been for committing ahead of time to showing my game publicly, I never would have had even that playable build. It would have been taking me another month or two to get as far as I did. There are a lot of commitment devices. You're in one right now. This is a monthly PostMortem where game developers show each other. And if I was going to be in town, I'd commit to showing my game next month, but I won't be. There's lots of competitions. I like to put builds on Friday, Feedback Friday on Game Dev thread on Reddit. You can show your game here, but just commit publicly to making progress, and then you'll find that you're much more likely to make it. And so that's my thought. There's a much longer write-up of this on Gama Sutra and on my website if you'd like to read it, and I hope it helps. Thanks.